A very good evening, dear learners. Today, I would continue with whatever I had stopped with yesterday. That is, I'll be continuing with Marxism, Marxist theory, Marxist ideology, and then we'll be moving ahead to different other critics and theorists who contributed in the formation of certain ideas, ideologies. They were the fathers of certain theories, which is very much relevant for the students of literature that we'll be doing today. So to start with, I'll tell you. I'll be continuing with the part where we had stopped yesterday. We were discussing about certain theories, starting from Plato to Aristotle. Then today we'll be discussing about Marx, and then so on. Now, Marxist criticism, as you see, as a part of criticism, uh, it is derived from a disciplinary formations of aesthetics and literary criticism. Okay, and Marxist theory. Sometimes you say that it is a very autonomous theory, an autonomous body of literary criticism, which is mainly indicated towards society. Okay, now if you see Marxist criticism, or you will see that it is divided into two parts. Okay, um uh, there are usually two kinds of material. Marx divides this philosophy into three different parts. Okay, like materialist, mechanical, and dialectical. Okay, so mechanical materialist goes under one head. It thinks of life in terms of like Newton physics. Okay, the mechanical material part. So according to him, this material mechanical part, according to that, he says, Marx theory says that it is predetermined and everything is predictable if only we had the apparatus to know it. Like the best example he takes is of Newton theory of physics. Okay, so he says that it is there, only we need certain apparatus, we need certain things, certain objects in order to realize the thing that is already there in nature. Okay, we need certain proper apparatus in order to know it. Second type he says is dialectical materialism. Okay, the first one was mechanical materialism, second one is dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism, actually, it shows that the world that as we see, okay, the world as we see, the world as we assume, it is the product of certain dialectical proper process. Okay, which means that uh, there are always to the this worldly processes, there are always a thesis and antithesis. Okay, that leads to synthesis. Now this in turn becomes a new thesis. Okay, so he says that there is always a thesis and antithesis to certain things in nature. Okay, now somebody joined just now. Yes, people are joining. Let me tell you that I'm continuing with Marxist theories. Now, these things you have to keep these things in your mind. So, according to Marx, this dialectical process that I was telling you, it leads us to some kind of rich and sensuous manifestation. Okay, and Marx says that this particular theory, Marxist theory, says that we human beings, we have got abstract experiences. Okay, so there are certain sensuous manifestation out of which we have certain abstract experiences in our life. Okay, so this is what this abstract experience we call is comes due to thinking. Okay, so thinking, according to Marx, is the process of abstraction. Okay, so According to this whole theory, to be in a very easy term, I can say that this theory actually tells that all ideas exist, okay, but they are uh, an abstraction from objective experiences. Theory ideas are there, okay, due to some objective experiences we are able to understand these ideas with our own abstract experiences. Okay, so these ideas are arrived, uh, uh, they are actually historically determined by the time period in which they arise. Okay, they are socially determined by the society. They are economically determined. Okay, so these ideas, they are determined in various layers, various levels, like in the social level, in the legal level, in the economic level. They are already determined. These ideas are there. We recognize these ideas through our experiences. Okay. Now if you think about exact Marxist theory, what it is trying to say, it's especially it is an ideological feature that that gives a lot of emphasis to democracy, that gives a lot of emphasis to individualism. Okay, and it says that these ideas can change in the mind. We have a mind, and these ideas uh, are never static. They're not stable, they're not static. They can change according to our experiences. Okay, and this is an ideology which Marx specified with special reference to democracy and individualism. Now, dear learners, this is a criticism paper, so you have to understand these theories very well. You have to remember these theories very well so that you can reiterate in your exams. And for me, it is also a little difficult to teach because it is complete criticism and theory. So there is no novel, or there is no poetry reading, anything of that sort. There are certain theories, there are certain criticisms. Uh, Understanding which we will be able to understand literature in a better way. If you read novel, you can put in this Marxist theories. As I was discussing yesterday, when we read Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, there you can see that yes, certain theories are there. Okay, communist theories you can get. A little bit of this Marxist theory is there because they talk a lot about the economy, the social stature of the time. Okay, with related to relation to the communist ideology. Okay, so for you, it is very important, it is very crucial for you to understand these theories, so that you can find its presence in different genres of literature. So being the PG students, it is very important for you to recognize this, so that when you go into any novel, it won't just be a story reading for you, because you are people of English literature. You will read novels or different genres, any genre, drama, novel, anything. When you have a good idea on the theory, you'll be able to find these theories present in those writings. Okay, then you'll be able to connect, then you will be able to find the importance of literature. Sometimes literature will be a very good part of historical representation of certain time. Okay, sometimes the theory will give you a very very clean background about the society of the then time about which you are reading. So what I mean to say is that these theories have to be clear in your mind. So here, if you see Marxist theories, they have a lot to talk about society. Okay, and individualistic ideology. Okay, now uh, I think you know a bit, you might have read Marx in different other subjects as well. You will see that actually uh, Marx actually dedicated his theories mainly to the middle class. Okay, to the middle class. And now when he is talking about ideology relating to middle class, okay, he says that actually this ideology is a kind of false consciousness with regard to the middle class people. Okay, it is a kind of false consciousness. He says that it is a system of beliefs about the world and one's own relation to it that represented the interest of dominant social class. So he says that ideology for middle class people is a kind of false consciousness. Okay, and actually, this ideology actually propagates mm, mm, high dominant classes. Okay, dominant classes. So he tries to give a clear point of view perspective for ideology. Okay, and he says that in practice this kind of Marxist criticism is very simplistic, and it is illuminating for especially the middle class stature of society. Okay, and he says that, and completely he calls out the high and cream class of the society. Okay, now, as students of literature, when you are talking as a student of literature, you perceive culture, and you see what this. As a person of literature, you understand what culture means for us. Okay, you have a different angle, different perception about culture. Now, Marxist theory, if you see from the literary point of view, yes. So if you see Marxist theory from literature point of view, then you will see that Marxism has got a long history in literature. It is a long traditional history in literature. Okay, and you will see that this Marxist ideology, present since long time, and it goes on and on and on, and you will see a real evolution of Marxism taking place in modern times, in the modern theories. Okay, so these Marxist critics also came into existence, who tried to speak more about Marxist theories. They saw this Marxist ideology from the point of view of modernism. Okay, and these new Marxist critics, they try to explore the attitude of the relationship between ideology and realism. Okay, they try to find what is ideology and what connection, what relationship does it have with the realism. Okay, so this is a very fascinating aspect of Marxist theory, when realism and ideology is scanned side by the modernist Marxist theories. Okay, now we will slowly move over to different certain theories. First, we come to structuralism. Structuralism, as we see, the person, the father of structuralism is Claude Levi-Strauss. Okay, but if we see from literary theoretical point of view, then we consider, for we people of literature, Roland Barthes as the most prominent figure, who coined structuralism, who propagates structuralism, who gave a proper structure and idea of this theory called structuralism. Okay, so structuralism, actually, you must remember, it is an intellectual movement. Okay, and this intellectual movement mainly centers around work of few major figures. Okay, uh, and one among them, a few major figures from the field of literary studies, and that includes Roland Barthes. Okay, few major figures are there in the literary studies, and Roland Barthes is the most prominent figure in the structuralism when we talk about literature. Okay, so according to Roland Barthes, structuralism is actually, it is actually a cultural structure. Okay, it is a cultural aspect. Hmm. Now, you will say that literature is also a cultural aspect, it is a cultural artifact. Okay, now, if you talk about structuralism that you find in literature, okay, it originates in the methods of ca- linguistics. Okay, Structuralism, you will see that it originates from the contemporary linguists. You know what is linguistics? Linguistics is a science of language. Okay, when you study the science of language, that is linguistics. Okay, so Lewis Strauss, when you see that, when you see Lewis Strauss, his methods of analysis in cultural anthropology, he borrows heavily from the sources of linguistics. Okay, from linguistics, he finds certain aspects that fits the theory of structuralism with regard to the linguistic theories. Okay, now, then came another major figure of structuralism is Ferdinand de Saussure. Okay. Now, when we talk about linguistics and the connection of structuralism in linguistics, literary structuralism in linguistics, then you will see that Saussure actually he brought a lot of revolution in linguistics. Okay, because this is actually his idea. Yeah, Saussure said that language functions in quite arbitrary. Okay, in the sense that there is no obvious correlation between linguistic or phonetic utterance. So, what is he trying to say is that there is no proper correlation, no relation between utterance, between linguistic and utterance. Means sometimes what you write may be pronounced differently. Okay, so I said that written English has sometimes no connection with the verbal English, with the oral thing that you speak out. So that is why Saussure pointed out two things. For sign, he says that there are two aspects. One is the signifier, and these are the two components of linguistic. One is the signifier, and another is the signified. Okay, so when we'll move over to different aspects of structuralism, which is in your coming classes, I'll be explaining. We'll be going into detail with this. Now, if you see Barth's poetics, okay, Barth talks about Barth's theories actually, then you will see the language of narrative achieves a kind of, a kind of a reflection. Okay, so he says that according to Barth, sign of the narrator are embedded in the narrative. It means that actually structuralism means that the language that you use in your writing, in your piece of literature, okay, it doesn't only reflect whatever the author is trying to say, but also it reflects certain new ideas, certain new thoughts come up if certain proper language is used. Linguistic use is such in the literature that the person, the reader, doesn't only understand the intention of the author, but also he understands some things which are not there. He through symbols, through interpretations, through different meanings, the reader actually captures the beauty of the text. Okay, so that is what is involved in structuralism. The next is Russian formalism. Now these are little bit connected with the language use, with the rhetorics. Okay, when you write a literature piece of literature, so in a very easy term I can put this into your mind, learners. Formalism means everything that you have to do with the form of your writing, the form of your writing in different genres, the form which is you know taken as a very important aspect, the form. Okay, what is the form? Form means the method, the way. Okay, so that is formalism. From form comes formalism. When you maintain the form in different genres, in order to indicate your proper meaning, you don't only use this structuralism, you don't only use the linguistic values, but also when you use the proper form, then also your piece of literature is enriched. Okay, so if you see a masterpiece, you will find proper structure, you will find proper form in the writing. That is why these are the different theories that that help you to determine a classic, okay, among different genres of literature. So formalism, as I told you, it is a theory, and it primarily believes in the form. It takes care of the form. Okay. So this Russian, mainly this idea of formalism originated from Russia. Okay, so Russian formalists, uh, they detached from form from the content. Okay, they say that no, content is a different thing, form is a different thing for them. Okay, and said that the the content is there, it doesn't carry much literary value, whereas form has got a high literary value in different genres of literature. So according to them, form was the most important thing, form in different parts of different genres of literature. Okay, so if you see from these different theories, you will see that literature was a special use of language. Literature uses particular forms. Okay, so this formal studies was very much appreciated at that time. So not only in Russia, it started spreading in different parts, especially in Europe. Okay, and they started reading it. They started propagating formalist theories. So formalist studies started to grow, uh, not only from Russia in Moscow, but also it started to move ahead. And then in Prague school also in Europe, it gained a lot of momentum. Hmm. So this critical formalism was in Russia. It was in a very high rise. Literary people, they started to make their critical interventions about this famous concept of form, and then also came from a very famous critic called Jacobson, theorist Jacobson. He talked about defamiliarization. This is another, another subcategory that comes under formalism, defamiliarization. Okay, so normal language here gives. Now, according to this formalist theories, what is this formalism? Let me explain this. It is said that normal language that we use, it gives us some kind of experience. Okay, some idea if we communicate in normal language. Okay, but please remember this, it is the work of literature, it is the duty of literature to bring some freshness in nature and human consciousness by special use of language. That is actually the form. Means, see, I am talking to you, I'm trying to give you certain experiences. Are you listening, dear learner? Are you there? Students, are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? Suman? Okay, good. Now, see, please remember this. It will make your understanding very clear, very substantial. It is actually trying to say that suppose I'm talking to you, I'm communicating with you. So I use a very common ordinary sentences in order to make you understand, right? But when I'm into literature, suppose when I'm writing something, some piece of literature, I should pick those words very intelligibly, which will give some fresh ideas. Okay. um and the readers will have some special conscious experience, some unique feeling the reader should have if I am if I'm writing a piece of literature. Okay, so that is actually the formalism in literature. Means you write in such a form, you write in such a way, you use certain techniques that will give a different type of experience to the readers. Okay. So uh, actually, in case of formalism, um, it is the part of the literature to give certain sensation of things. Some sensation should be there. If you read novel, you will find this, that yes, you are getting some kind of sensation. Okay, and you maybe you knew this. Okay, this particular idea you knew, but now when you're reading it in this way, it gives a special sensation. So formalism has to do with this aspect, this technique of literature. Okay, so that was what we talked about, structuralism. Then feminism is there, feminist theory is there. Okay, feminist criticism is also there. So here you will see, in a very easy way, in a very short precise way, I'll tell you what all this idea of feminism is. Now because nowadays, as you see, very recently, yes, somebody said something, let me check. There's some message. Formalism have relation with notion of culture. I think, Suman, for I think Marxist theory has got lot with culture. Formalism, if you say, has got more about the form of writing. Okay, which means that we go a little bit close to the linguistic, like structuralism, a little bit more to the linguistic aspects, which means that your form of writing should be such, okay, that will give a special effect. Okay, and but Suman, you must always remember that that nowadays, in our contemporary society, you cannot detach yourself from culture, from the notion of culture, because I'll tell you why. Because culture has certain effect on the author, and that same culture has got a different effect on the readers also. So actually, what we do yesterday, I was telling you, that literature is mimetic, means it is a inspiration from society and culture only. Are you under getting my point, Suman? See, we are completely a product of our culture, right? We are the product of our culture. So when our understanding, the language understanding that we have, understand when we understand each other through certain language, that also is an influence from culture. Okay, now when I'm writing with certain linguistic accuracy, with certain linguistic formalistic idea, okay, then certainly that will have some effect from culture only. Okay, our form, our determination of the way we determine our subject in our creative writing. Suppose you are writing a novel. Suman, you are writing a novel. Okay, so you know that you have to maintain certain form. That is what is formalism about. In certain form, in certain language, in certain method. So don't you think that the culture will influence your method of writing because you are a product of that culture? Certainly. But if you talk it very theoretically, Suman, then formalism is mainly about the forms of writing. Okay. If you just think about formalism, uh, theoretically, okay, as you have to do in this course, in your MEG-5, then just keep yourself focused to the form. From form comes formalism, and form is very close to the linguistic pattern of writing. Okay, so culture and those things will be little bit research oriented. So you can keep it only this much for your clarity, that from form comes formalism. Now, when we talk about this, is associated with, yes, 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 yes. Actually, formalism is a development of structuralism. Okay, from structuralism follows formalism. Structuralism is more about the linguistic, the grammatical thing, the words that will affect the readers more. Okay, now the formalism is a little broader. The form of writing, the okay, the form, the method of writing will be such that it will give a different sensation to the readers. Now, moving ahead, if we talk about feminism today, Suman, I think you are the only person here attending the class. No, there's someone else also. Yeah, another person is there. I think it's GS Priya. Now, when we talk about feminism, we have to be very careful about what we are speaking, because you can see how our cultural scenario is changing, how our societal scenario is changing. When and there was a time when feminism was very much necessary, was very much needful. Okay, but sometimes we see that in some areas also we find it very exhaustive. Okay, so we have to be very careful when we are talking about the feminism, because that nowadays actually it is a very politically charged theory. Okay, now initially if you see, feminism was very much necessary, because women were laid behind, women did not get so much of opportunity. Now also if you see, there are certain parts in our globe till today where females are not getting that opportunity. Okay. So in order to address the issues, in order to address their plight, this theory of feminism came into being. Okay. So, yes. So, in a very general way, we can say that when gender discrimination happened, when there was a lot of patriarchal intervention in the society, then there was a certain group which came up. Now this group mainly comprised of women, but you cannot say that only women are feminists. No, men are also feminists. They also take the side of women. They also see the injustices happening on women, and they also open their mouth. They also resist. They also try to fight for the rights of women. So they are also feminists. So can also be feminists. Okay, so generally this is the resistance that came in the society. Okay, against the gender discrimination that was happening in the society. Okay, but currently if you see, because we are quite often now we are getting news that how men are getting exploited because of the laws which were made taking care of only female point of view. Nowadays men are suffering. So this term actually feminism is now a very highly politically charged term. But I'll explain you according to our theories only. Let us not go into all those mess that is happening in society. So the a kind of resistance came, and this resistance started from Europe, European countries, and then it started to spread in different in various countries and continents also. So majorly, you can say that this is a theory that talks about female subjugation. Okay, where there was a lot of exploitation of the female sex in their social and cultural life. Then a resistance came where people demanded equality. So that is what exactly is feminism and feminist theories. Okay. Uh, so as I told you, this has been happening, and first people to voice this kind of discrimination were the European women. When the first wave of feminism came, when women were not given the right to suffrage, means they had no right to vote. So women protested. People Men thought that women have got no brains to talk about politics. So which women thought that was very derogatory for women, and they fought, and finally they got the adult suffrage. They were allowed to vote. Okay, this was the initial phase when they started. Then second and third phase came, wave of feminism came one after another. Now if you see, can you say that the feminist perspective is same all over the world? The way European women feel, the way European women react to feminism can be same all over the world? No, absolutely not. Okay, especially we people in South Asia, our conditions are different. Our, condition of women are completely different from those women. Okay, because we used to have so many flaws in our society, leading uh, to a lot of abuse of women. So we had our own method of protesting against this kind of sexual discrimination. Okay, so it varies from place to place and location to location. The theory cannot remain static for everyone. Okay. Now, uh, feminist criticism, they see things from a feminist point of view. Okay, so we can say, Chaucer. If you see Wife of Bath, Canterbury Tales के अंदर में you see there is a story, Wife of Bath. She tells the story. So people said that though that kind of writing was the very initial feminist writing, where the whole story was was surrounded towards a woman only. Okay, so that was a feminist perspective, a story told from the female's point of view. Okay, then came, you can see, in Victorian age, Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion came. Okay, and Bronte sisters also brought about many uh, 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 stories from feminist point of view. Virginia Woolf started to write from feminist points of view. She tried to claim a room of one's own. A woman should have a room of her own at least. Okay, then this very powerful Mary Wollstonecraft wrote Vindications of the Right of Woman in 1792. Then Simon de Beauvoir, The Second Sex, she wrote in 1949. These were learners, very strong masterpieces of literature that was based on this feminist theory. Okay. Now, feminist literary criticism has been of many kinds. Okay, if you see it broadly, this particular feminist literary criticism, sometimes you will see that it is very descriptive about the plight of women. Some criticism, if you read some good criticism, you will find that these critics are very angry. Okay, and simply they are taking out their anger in that piece of criticism. Okay, but actually it has got, if you overall, if you try to understand, it has got a high political value. Okay, and this anger is especially there because of years and years of of negligence, of discrimination, of violence against women that brought about so much of anger. Okay, and so feminist criticism, they, as I was telling you, they went through three phases. You must know this. Okay, in 1970s, there was a critical attention which was focused on text by male writers. Okay, that constructed influential but typical images of women. They talked on women. Women did not talk about themselves. Okay, 1970s was a crucial time when males started writing about women from their point of view, whereas the women writers were so silent. Okay, nobody had any voice from the woman's side, and they portrayed women in a very typical manner. Then there was the second phase when women combated. Women replied back, "Who the hell are you to talk about us? We will speak for ourselves." So in 1980s, feminist criticism began to turn towards other kinds of criticism, interpretation, because this Marxism also came, no? So that brought a lot of thoughts of equality in the society. Okay, so they started, now the literature started to explore the female world, the female experience. Okay, and some female canonical writing. Here you can see that Alien Showalter, she is a very prominent figure here. She talks about, she diverts, remember this, you can use this in your answers. She diverts the focus from androtext, androtext, androtext means books by men, to gynotext. Gynotext means books by women. So she said that this gynotext should be focused upon in order to understand women. Means gynotext means written by women. Read this. And she was the one who initiated gynocriticism, the criticism, okay, related to women and their writing. So no, they wrote and wrote and wrote. uh, 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 you know what I'm trying to say is that literature was a heavy bulk of text. Okay, and their criticisms were also there. But everything till now focused on men only, men, and men. You can see Marx, men, Saussure, man, uh, then Bakhtin, man, Plateau, man. Where is woman here? Nobody is talking about women as if they don't exist in this world. Now, from 1970s onwards, focus little changed. People now came to realize that okay, women are also there. Okay, they also have voice. They are equally human. So this understanding was initially clarified by Alien Showalter in her gynocriticism. Okay, so Showalter contributed a lot to these three phases in women's writing. First phase is feminine phase from 1840 to 80. She gave a criticism here that the first feminine phase was from 1840 to 1880. Okay, where female writers were writing, but they were imitating male writers, their techniques, their the way they thought. Okay, they were imitating. That was the first phase. In the second phase, that was from 1880 to 1920. Okay, now women at this phase understand that no, how can we imitate men? We are not like men. We do not exactly think like men. Our lifestyle is not like men. Okay, our sensibility is not like men. Now they try to understand and now they try to take their position in the second phase. In the third phase, that is 1920 onwards, okay, uh, females started writing like females, no imitation, no copying, okay, and they were accepted also. Men accepted it. When female wrote books of resistance, male read it, they accepted it, and they, they were hand in hand. Now they understood it. Okay, they no more try to dissuade them from writing. So slowly and gradually, you see how equality came into society in terms of gender discrimination. Students, am I able to make you understand this? Am I clear? Let me know. Am I clear with this? Very good. Now this was the the feminist theory, and then as I told you, uh, this idea of feminism started spreading all over, where even to the to the third world countries like ours, like Africa. Okay, and people and women started to take their position in the society, and they started to speak. And then from here again we see another diversion that came into the lesbian theories. Gay lesbian theories also originated from here. Okay, from the feminist theories. Now we'll move over to post structuralism. Okay, now post structuralism, again it is a very interesting thing. Read the text, okay, against itself. No other reference. Read the text. इधर उधर नहीं देखने का. Just read. No reference, nothing. Just read the text. Okay, that is post structuralism. Okay. Now, what we understand about this whole idea, whole theory of post structuralism? So, you can say, in a way, it is a kind of continuation to structuralism because this is post structuralism. Okay, or you can say that this is a development of structuralism, or you can say it is a kind of rebellion also against structuralism. I'll tell you how. Um, Post structuralism, the a beautiful theory, a clear theory is given by the theorist called Peter Barry in his book Beginning Theory in 1995. Okay, he gave a proper idea and definition of post structuralism. So, Barry says, just as I told you, read the text against itself. Okay, so when you are reading the text, suppose what we do, what this generation of people are doing, our young students, if you ask them, go read Macbeth and come, what they do, they open mobile phone or they go to that all those things, AI, chat GPT, They read analysis, they read summary, they see read character interpretations. No, here the writers are saying that read the text. You read the text, you find the layers present in the text. Okay, you have to find, you have to kind of excavate, खोद के निकालना है from the text. You have to do. So read the text against itself. Okay, no other point of reference. So in that way you yourself will be able to find out the different meaning which is there, okay, as a treasure, hidden treasure inside the text. Okay, so when you read the text itself, you will give your you will find your own analysis. Okay, you will be able to find everything, the root meanings. You will try to see what are the metaphors, what are the different figures of speech used. Okay, you will find the beauty inside the text. Okay, so in order to find the real beauty contained in the text, embedded in the text, you have to read it yourself. Okay, and when you will read it without any external help, then you will find your analysis becomes very genuine, very intense. Okay, you will find when you're reading, you will find an explosion of language, एक bomb blast होगा language का. Take novel. As I told you yesterday, I was reading Anna Karenina, Leo Tolstoy ka, that has got 2 volumes, thick volumes. So I did not prefer to read AI or Chat GPT summary, nothing. The whole 2 fat books. So what I saw a whole, uh, you know, uh, galaxy of words, of meanings, of symbols, of metaphors, of beautiful language uses. Okay, beautiful. If you talk about forms, then beautiful forms are there of those languages. Okay, so there was an explosion of words if you read the text properly. Okay, and that will help you in enriching your thoughts, okay, your experiences, your capacity to analyze anything and everything under the sun. So this kind of reading comes under post structural reading. Okay, and if you are reading also, you can not only you will find the beauty, but you will be able to locate some gaps. You will be able to see that maybe there is something lagging, something nice, and something lagging also. Okay, so that is what is post structural theory when you are reading the text as a whole without any point of references. Then comes the theory of deconstruction. Jacques Derrida. Okay, he is a French philosopher and he is the most influential figure to talk about the theory of deconstruction. Okay, and you can say that he's a philosopher who literary philosopher who gave us a lot of idea about the theory of deconstruction, how to read a text actually. Okay, now Derrida says that uh, Derrida, actually, you will say that you can see that he is a great supporter of world of science, SIGN, science. Okay, so he is an admirer of a world of science, uh, sign and symbol. Okay, and he loves to to find out a proper interpretation of these signs and symbols used in text. Okay, now due to his love for these signs and symbols, he established a new school of criticism. Okay, that was based on deconstruction. Construction nahi hai, deconstruction hai. So what does this mean? Deconstruction stands for Derrida's essay. Derrida के essay से this theory of deconstruction has been taken out. उसका ऐसे का नाम है स्ट्रक्चर साइन एंड प्ले in the discourse of human sciences. Okay, from this book we are reading the theory of deconstruction by Derrida. Now, what is this deconstruction? Here he states that language bears within itself the necessity of its own critique. He says that inside the language, in a text, inside a language you will find the own critic. Means you don't need to ponder or wander around any book or any reference book to find the criticism. No, in the language of that book only criticism is present. You just have to, as I told, you have to just excavate it. Okay, so deconstruction here is offering the readers just a chance to produce, to create the own meanings, okay, out of the text. Okay, means that you have got full liberty. Nobody will stop you to find your own interpretation. Okay, without going into any point of references. Like as I told you, you know author, you read about his background, no need. If you read the book, you will get a chance to analyze, to interpret the whole situation of the novel or any book itself. Okay, you just have to read the book. Give me 2 minutes, students. Okay, so this was deconstruction theory, that you have got full liberty to read, to analyze, okay, to critically appreciate on your own. Okay, so under this, the text, you have to, you have to give freedom to the text to, claim its own possession in determining its meaning. So, uh, He talks beyond all this language use. He talks about how you have to read as a reader and how you have to understand, because when the book is with you, now you are the authority. Author is not the authority, book is not the authority, you are the authority. So you have to make a critical approach on your own. Okay. So that will add the beauty to your reading. Now we will move to our Indian thoughts, Indian criticism, Indian theories. Okay, so Indian theories, Indian thoughts, or Indian, what I say, criticism, that is called Indian aesthetics. Okay, Indian aesthetics. Okay, it is called Indian aesthetics. Now, what is this Indian aesthetics? Indian aesthetics are actually the theories of Indian literature, hmm, that has come down from the ages of classical times, where Sanskrit texts were of high regard, of high value. Okay, now that is what is we consider is Indian aesthetics, Indian classics. Okay, and which is very very unique, very fresh, very different. Okay, very one of its kind. If you compare it with the Western counterpart, it is completely different. Hmm. And these are the texts where you can see aesthetically, if you see, it has got no colonial impact. It is free, it is completely pure, and it talks about typical Indian heritage. Okay, so we always see that this is Indian criticism, Indian theory, that is Western theory, and these two theories, Indian, Eastern or Western, they are completely parallel. Okay, uh, so means we have got a lot of sense of beauty, sense of tradition, hmm, and we have a complete different approach to the aesthetics. So here among this we have the prominent aesthetic, which is the Hindu aesthetics. Okay, and this Hindu aesthetic, you can see that it doesn't have any, that political colonial, uh, what do you say, interpretation, or mm, what do you say, any influence. Hindu aesthetics is completely pure. It is completely one of its kind, and it is a very unique piece of literature if you compare with the Western counterpart. All right, and that is also often called Oriental art or Oriental aesthetics. Okay, which is written, which is produced towards the Eastern Hemisphere, and among the Eastern Hemisphere, our Indian aesthetic is very very famous. Okay, so what passes for Indian aesthetics now was starting from Mauryan period to Gupta period. Okay, all these empires, all their political geography, uh, you know, uh, was used as a form of written piece in our aesthetics. Okay, they had also a great contribution in making the aesthetics. Okay, now if you see Western, as I was telling you last class, Western literature has got a lot of influence from religion, from Christianity. Similarly, India also has its foundation from Hinduism. Okay, so religious and philosophical thought, it is very significant in the social context of art. Okay, or if you see Indian history also, you will find a lot of influences there in our art of religion and philosophy. Okay, So mainly we have Hindu religion, Hindu aesthetic, as I told you. But apart from that, if you see the whole Eastern hemisphere, you will see Buddhist aesthetics, Buddhist influence is there in art. Islamic faith is also influencing our whole tradition of literary aesthetics. Okay, so as I told you that religion was initially a part of art. Okay, and religion helped in the development of Indian art. So much of the Indian art, much of the Indian criticism had a religious form and content. Okay, so it is these aesthetics which had a lot of spiritual influence. Okay, spiritual base, because our religion is mainly a lot to do with the spiritual ideologies. Okay, so if you see Indian aesthetics, there's a Ras Leela, okay, of Krishna and gopis. Okay, so this comes under the rasa theory. All right, so this religion, see how religion helps in the formation of a literary theory with the help of the story, the idea of Ras Leela between Lord Krishna and the gopis. Okay, so here you will see many artists, many rulers, many audiences. They show a willingness. They are happy to accept this kind of fantastic representation of the supernatural. Okay, so here you can see the God Himself is involved in the Ras Leela. Okay, and further, this whole involvement takes us to the theory of rasa. All right, and Indians are also fascinated to see this kind of what do you say, religio artistic indulgences. Okay, so you have also noticed how emphasis is placed on mystic symbolism. Okay, India has got lot of mystical symbolism, dance, maybe theaters, maybe you will find that this kind of mystical, or you can say spiritual symbolism is also there, and people enjoy that. Okay, and if you see most Indian art, they are they give a religious interpretations by persons of a strongly religious belief. Okay, so this was not this is not the intention of the artist to make such kind of religious help, but it gradually happened. Okay, because in India religion and art are often mixed, are often churned, are blended together to give a beautiful fragrance of literature. If you see the mystic functions, if I elaborate it more, then when we talk about uh, the ideas of moksha prapti, okay, that also comes under the aesthetics of Indian literature. Okay, because it has got a lot of mystic symbols. Hmm. And also, if you see art, if you see the dancing Shiva, okay, in many of our houses we use that the figure of that Nataraj we use in we keep it in our house. It is a symbol of the cosmic rhythm of creation and destruction. Okay, it is a symbol. So that also is an aesthetic, because that is also an understanding of the world with relation to that posture in the Nataraj. Okay, so this is what is aesthetic. You see, as I told you, Lord Krishna is also a very eminent figure in in aesthetics. Um, because as I told you that that rasa theory comes out of the Ras Leela played by Lord Krishna. Okay, so many aesthetics theory of rasa, uh, Natya Shastra, which we'll be doing more in our coming classes, forthcoming classes. These are all very much sensitive with relation to beauty, with relation to our artistic admiration. Okay, towards our the whole belief system that India is surrounded with. Okay, now I think I forgot the time, and I have already taken 4 5 minutes of your next teacher's time. Tapas sir, are you there?
Good evening. Yes, madam.
Okay, then learners, I'm logging out. You'll be continuing with your next teaching. So we'll meet tomorrow, same time. Have good time till then.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, all of you? Am I audible? Kavita,
Yes, sir,
Priya,
you are audible.
Suman. Okay. Well, Kavita, you were not there yesterday. I think Priya also joined today. Suman, you also joined today. So I would just like to know all of you. So Kavita, could you please tell me where you from and uh, what background do you carry? Means educational
Okay,
background. Yeah.
okay, sir, thank you. Sir, my name is Kavita. I am from Palam, Delhi. And sir, if I talk about in my education, so sir, my master graduation both are completed from Delhi University in Hindi stream. And sir, now I am.
Okay, okay. So you've done, you are from a Hindi literature
Yes,
background.
yes, sir, I am from Hindi literature.
Okay, okay. Good, 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 good. Nice to know you.
Thank you, sir.
Priya, can I know you? Hello, Priya. GS Priya. Okay. Suman, Suman, can you hear me? Okay, 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 fine. Okay. So today, what I will do is I will be discussing about um, the new literatures in English and the literary canon. Yesterday, I have already discussed a few things, and today we will discuss about the literary canon. Um, so, talking about just a minute. Yeah. So literary canon, if you see the term literary canon is a technical term which is used describe a set of texts that serve as a recognized standard of stylistic quality, cultural, or you can say social significance and intellectual value. So the literary canon is not, determined as much as it is adopted by a pervasive usage in university and graduate classrooms, as well as reference and citation in the academic journals, and it is to a degree based on the influence of curriculum publishers and testing organizations, because people in the society are most likely to be exposed to the accepted canon of literature. These texts also inform both a generally accepted worldview and and determine the imaginative boundaries of how that society tends to think. So, for example, we can say because Aristotle's work were considered part of literary canon for the last several centuries. Western societies have tended to approach question of warfare and economics through an Aristotelian lens. Especially if you see the voice of a society which hears most often is most likely to carry an outside influence on the people within that society, both in how they think and how they live, and the fact that the canon is determined through usage and collaboration, which makes it both highly adaptable and highly controversial at the same time. So in the recent years, a push to change what authors and works should be considered, canon and canonical has driven as a great deal of debate within the Western literary world. So, coming to the canonical texts in literature, now the word canon stems from an older Greek term that is transliterated as canon, which originally this Greek term referred to as a standard, or we can say measuring rod, against which something was measured to ensure that it was set correctly. So you find the physical engineering use of this term eventually took on a metamorphic meaning. But now the term canon is used to mean and agreed upon the standard against which other most frequently intellectual works are measured for quality, long-term values, and influence. And you see, though different from the Eastern cultures, the country and the people group, especially within we can say Europe of the Western society, have worked within the boundaries of a fairly consistent literary canon for the last 1,000 to 1,500 years. So, in general, the Western, canon has prioritized the voices of the dominant, Greco-Roman philosophers, the poets and the novelists of France and Britain, and in most recent centuries, the sociological, philosophical voices of Germany. So it is equally true that the American novelists, in particular, have been found their way into the generally accepted canon during the late 19th and throughout the 20th centuries. So you can say some of the influential and widely accepted voices of the Western literary canon include, the Bible, then Plato, Sophocles, Aristotle, then Chaucer, William Shakespeare, William Wordsworth, Emily Dickinson, James Joyce, T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf, then uh, Pablo Neruda, Albert Camus, Chinua Achebe, all these people. Then we have the Commonwealth literature. The Commonwealth literature is generally, believed to, refer to the literary products of the independence countries of Africa, Asia, and even the Caribbean and North America, which were once, colonized by the United Kingdom, and the works of writers from Australia, from New Zealand, from Canada, India, Malaysia, all and even Singapore are therefore regarded as the Commonwealth literature. Yesterday, I told about the Commonwealth literature. Are you getting me, Kavita? Suman? Priya? Are you getting me? Okay. 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 Fine. So next is the post-colonialism. The term post-colonialism refers broadly to the ways in which race, ethnicity, culture, and human identity itself is represented in the modern era. We can say, um, just a minute. Okay, so yeah, so I was telling you about the post-colonialism and yes, so you find, however, you find some of the critics use the term to refer all these culture and the cultural products influenced by imperialism, from the moment of colonization until the 21st century. So the post-colonial literature seeks to describe the interaction between the European nations and the people they are colonized. So by the middle of the 20th century, you find the vast majority of the world was under the control of the European countries, and its peak in the late 19th century, according to the Norton Anthology of English Literature. You find the British Empire consisted of more than a quarter of all the territory on the surface of the earth, and one of in four people was a subject of Queen Victoria. So we find that during the 20th century, countries such as India, Jamaica, Nigeria, Senegal, Sri Lanka, Canada, Australia, all these won independence from their European colonizers. So the literature and art produced in these countries after independence became the subject of post-colonial studies, and even an area of the academic concentration initially in the British universities. So the field gained prominence in the 1970s and has been developing ever since then. And the Palestinian, you find American scholar Edward said, uh, critic of the Western, representations of the Eastern culture in his 1978 book Orientalism, has mentioned is a very seminal text for the post-colonial studies and has spawned in a host of theories on the subject. But however, you find as the currency of the term post-colonial gained wider use, its meaning also was expanded. And some considered, the United States itself as a post-colonial country because of its former status as the territory of the Great Britain. But you find it is generally studied for its colonizing, rather its colonized attributes. And in another vein, we find Canada and Australia, the former colonies of Britain, are often placed in a separate category because of their status as a settler country and because of their continuing membership in the British Commonwealth of the Nations. So you find in this, you find some of the major voices and works of the post-colonial literature are, Salman Rushdie's novel *The Midnight's Children*, which was published in 1981, and mm, Chinua Achebe's novel *Things Fall Apart*, which was published in 1958. Michael Ondaatje's novel *The English Patient*, which was published in 1992. Franz Fanon's *The Wretched of the Earth*, published in 1961. Jamaica Kincaid's *The Small Place* in 1988, and Isabel Allende's *The House of Spirits* in 1982. So some of these works of during that period of time. So coming to the new literatures in English, the new literatures in English are not that new altogether, but they have emerged, you know, um, just a minute. Yeah, so they have emerged, from the processes of colonization that transformed, large tracts of the world from the late 15th century onwards, and some of them can, trace their beginnings to the 19th century or even the late, 18th century. So when English, Irish, or the Scottish settlers in the Caribbean and Canada or South Africa began to create an overseas literature and enslaved or colonized people, which first began to reflect on their current situation, future perspectives, utilizing the medium of what was the colonizer's tongue. And the other literatures in English are indeed, you find new, sometimes, startlingly so, as distinct literary fields. West African, literature in English emerged in the 1950s. The East African literature in English in the 1960s, and the indigenous writings in Canada, Australia, and the New Zealand in 1970s, and Black and Asian British literatures in the 1980s. So you find these were the new literatures during during that period of time and how it was used. Am I clear till this? Kavita Suman? Hello? Kavita and Suman, are you okay? So we will now move on just a minute. Just a minute, just a minute. Yeah. So, so I told you about, yeah. So I will just tell you. If if we recall your history, and you may remember in one time in the past, Britain had taken control over many regions and ruled many parts of Africa, Australia, Bangladesh, Canada, and the Caribbean, isn't it? So you find, yeah. So you find it has also gained control over the countries such as India, Malaysia, Malta, New Zealand, Pakistan, Singapore, South Pacific Islands, and Sri Lanka. And since the new literatures deals with the place that have once been colonized by the literatures of these countries, are also called the post-colonial writings or literatures. Okay. So, well, now that you remember your history, we can definitely, briefly talk about the issues which are relating to the terms of post-colonial, and the term post-colonial is, however, very broad, as we just talked, and one of the definition which states that the term post-colonial refers to all the culture which is affected by the imperial process from the moment of colonization to the present day. So this sort of statement in is made because it is perceived by many of the European conquest in many places which had earlier rise to similar conditions. But such a statement is easy to make. But when one studies it carefully, one may find that it is not easy to give a clear definition to the term post-colonial. So, post-colonial you find has emerged to indicate the period after colonization. Are you all getting me? Hello, are you all getting me? Okay. So, according to Anya Lumba, the term is a very vague concept with no crystallized definition. And on the other argument that comes up with another thinker, that is L.K. Bohema, who thinks in such a case of colonization, most modern and contemporary literatures would be called as colonial or post-colonial, as British or as Britain, was conquered by the Roman Empire. Therefore, she is of the view that literature written in English would be a better choice to indicate the term. And even you find Deepika Bahari, another post colonial critic, is of the opinion that the term post colonial, as applied to the literature of the former colonized countries, which have been subject to endless debates due to its internal complexity. And so you find all these theorists have given, how post-colonial thing is, uh, is being, defined. So one of the earliest theories in the post-colonial criticism is the work "The Empire Writes Back" by Bill Ashcroft, Helen Tiffin and Gareth, which tries to point out the inability of the European theory to deal adequately with the complexities and varied cultural provenance of post-colonial writing. So they feel that the complexity and the cultural difference of the colonized provinces is so great that an appropriate idea of either new literature or the post colonial literature is problematic. So, in order to understand the concept uh, of the post-colonial literature, it is necessary to be, familiar with colonialism. And we are aware that colonialism means the imperialism and expansion, we see that Boehmer argues that colonial literature is writing which is concerned with colonial, uh, perceptions and experience, and mainly you find by metropolitan, but also by the creosoles of indigenes during the colonial times. Am I clear? Hello, Kavita, can you hear me? Kavita, am I clear? Yeah, okay, fine. So uh, we see that some of the text, if we see, just a minute, just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So you find, there, it is said that, but you find also the, as I said, the Creoles and the indigenes during the colonial times, and therefore, includes literature written in Britain as well as the rest of Europe. So we see that, 1 minute. So we see that, she makes a distinctive colonial and the colonialist literature with which, is written from the imperialistic point of view, and she cites the example of Foster as passage to India. Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. So passage to India and Conrad's, heart of darkness. So in this case, post-colonialism becomes an important reflection because it displays the emergence of indigenous writings from the colonized countries and reveals, the cultural complexity of new writings. One of the important reflection of the post-colonial theory is that it addresses the issue of power using as a tool, language, and writers seek an individuality and identity by using language that is used innovatively. So therefore, the post-colonial writing abrogates the privileged centrality of English by using language to signify a difference while employing sameness, which allows it to be understood. Are you getting me? Okay. So you find, uh, now that we have understood, we have discussed about the problems which are associated with the term post-colonial literature. Let us see how these new literatures shape our over a period of time in which when the colonies were established, many of the people who colonized the societies wrote fiction, poetry, essay, which were mostly the notion of the culture that they encountered. So thus we find, as a critic mentions, during the imperial period, writing in the language of the imperial center, which is inevitably, of course, produced by a literate elite whose primary indication, identification is, with the colonizing power. These works were, written by settlers, administrators, soldiers, travelers, visitors, and mem sahibs. So, as already mentioned, they were representatives of the colonizers in some form or the others. Therefore, they did not, reveal the true nature of the colonized land or people. The second stage in the literary field is the work written by the writers who are natives but who produce documents which are licensed by the rulers. So one of the example in the large body of poetry and prose which produced in the 19th century by the English educated Indian upper class, or the African missionary literatures, and the writers display their gaining of power by entering into the colonizer space by using their language and education. And even though some of these writings did touch upon social evils that they still were under in the sanction of the imperial power, and therefore could also be considered to be the objective and unprejudiced. Okay, so the final stage of evolution of independent literatures, came when the colonizers' power was subverted and used in newer and innovative ways. And one example of this is Rajarao's, Kantapura. Well, no, you might be thinking, how can one, though, fiction, drama, poetry, come up with subversions or innovations? So, uh, here you can say the writer used the tool of literature, namely language, to reveal the power structure in society. Okay, so in fact today post-colonial and new literatures, as we address, is largely a dialogue about the method by which the language of power and the writing of authority has been wrested from the dominant European culture, and in order to to focus on the complex ways in which the English language has been used in these societies, and to indicate the different cultural patterns that emerge, which are deviant from the standard British English, which is inherited from the empire. Critics distinguish between the terms English and and um, you find, if English is indicative of the colonizer's standard format, English is the response of the post colonial nations. And another thing that you will have to remember at this point of time is that even though British imperialism resulted in the spread of English language, you find the English of the Indians is not the English of Jamaicans or Maoris or Kenyans. And we find, as the critic states, we need to distinguish between what is proposed as the standard code, that is English, the language of the erstwhile imperial center, and the linguistic code, English, which has been transformed and subverted into several distinctive varieties throughout the world. Okay, so the themes in the new post-colonial literatures, you find some of the common topic which are addressed in the post-colonial and the new literatures are hegemony, language, place, and displacement. Okay, just a minute. Yeah. So yes. So since already you find that hegemony, in other words, power relation and language are addressed, we shall try to understand place and displacement, because a valid and active sense of self may have eroded by dislocation resulting from migration, the experience of enslavement, transportation, or voluntary removal for indentured labor. So, placement and displacement, you find, is a major feature of the dialectic of place and displacement, which is always a characteristic trait of post-colonial societies. And whether these have been created as a process of settlement, intervention, or as a mixture of the two. So, beyond their historical and cultural differences, you find place displacement and a pervasive concern with the myths of identity and authenticity is a feature which is common to all the post colonial literatures in English. And we find the accounts of Trinidadian Indian, which is in indentured laborers, West Indian slaves, or forcefully colonized Nigerians, discuss the identities in the new environments and places. And many times, the creation of these identities may have problem due to the inadequacy of language. Therefore, you find the writers may recreate the standard English, thereby developing a new English. And one of these examples for this is, once again, we can cite the example of Kanthapura, another example of a Nigerian writer, that is Chinua Achebe. You find uh, Raja Rao and Achbe have found it necessary to transform the language, to use it in a different way in its new context and so. And as Achbe says, quoting James Baldwin, make it bear the burden of their experience. So in case of these two writers, you find one can say that these writers may not have faced geographical displacements, but on the other hand have undergone the linguistics displacement. Okay, so you must understand that this type of pressure of inventing an appropriate language to express their otherness and alienation. So, thus, you find most of the new literatures, you will find the distinction made with reference to landscape, flora, fauna, seasons, and even the climatic condition. Okay. So last today I will tell you about the post coloniality and theory, and then we will next in the next class we will talk about more about Africa, about the authors of the genres, the different genres of the African literature, and the background of the rise of African writing. So coming to so all these discussions that we have done, you must remember, uh, which have made the inadequacy of any criticism or theory to deal with this type of literary writing, or and a new theory which is called the post-colonial theory, which has emerged to deal with these writings. These theories addresses many issues such as nationalism, education, language, societal patterns, the institutions, gender value systems, and epistemologies. So right now, as our topic does not deal with these theoretical issues, we will not move uh, deep into the closer of all these nations and the writings. Okay. Am I clear, Kavita? I think only Kavita is there. Kavita, am I clear? Yeah, okay. So I think in the next class, that is tomorrow, we will discuss about the ideas of Africa and colonialism, and the scope of African writing, the genres, and also we will discuss about African writing. Okay. So for today, we will we will end here. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you then, and we can end the class here then. Thank you.